What is up, guys? It is Ben. Welcome back to the channel. And we are already into week 11 of the NFL season, beyond halfway. It's been a crazy season for all fans, whether your team is undefeated or they've only won a few games. Tons of upsets last week. That was the main talking point. And I know those upsets affected my record. So for week 10, I went exactly 500. I went 7-7. And that brings my total to 88-64. I also want to point out that I got my first perfect prediction, 20-17, with the Carolina Panthers winning. Go me. So with that being said, let's get the ball rolling for Thursday Night Football, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Washington Commanders and Philadelphia Eagles. Starting the week off with an NFC East matchup. The Washington Commanders are heading to Philadelphia to take on their divisional rivals, the Eagles, in what is sure to be an exciting matchup. The Commanders, you had a really good game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but only short of 1 point. You almost had them. If it wasn't for that jump off sides on the final play. And Austin Eckler had 2 touchdowns too. That was impressive, especially for my fantasy football. Thank you. Yes, it stings at the end, but you guys did play a tough Pittsburgh team that's seen the second win of Russell Wilson. Unlimited. And for the Eagles, they made Jerry World their home and made sure of it, only allowing 6 points throughout the whole game. Yes, Dak Prescott was out, and we did see both Cooper Rush and Trey Lance play a little bit, but it didn't matter at all. With the exception of Saquon Barkley, who had a quiet day against the Cowboys, you only proved my point knowing that you guys are in full stride. You are going to be a dangerous team for the playoffs. Now we got 2 Thursdays in a row where we've had matchups that can go either way. You got Jaden Daniels, who is becoming an impressive rookie, and then you got the seasoned vet of Jalen Hurts and his superstar squad. But I'm going to give the nod to Philly to win this one, but I think it will be close. Philly wins it 27-21. Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers. The standings in the AFC North are getting pretty chippy, and with the 2 top dogs playing each other this weekend, I guarantee you this is going to be a blockbuster game. The Ravens are coming from a 10-day break after they faced off against the Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday Night Football, where they won in an almost overtime game matchup. That was a really good game to watch, unless you are a Bengals fan. They also showed off their alternate uniforms for the first time, and I have to say, those are pretty sweet looking, except they do remind me of a Crown Royal bag. But anyway, Lamar Jackson tore up the Bengals defense with 4 touchdowns and nearly 300 yards. Although the game finished on a very controversial no call, should I say 3 no calls. The Steelers, their last matchup was against the Washington Commanders, where they won by a single point. Russell Wilson is looking perfect right now, and that offense and defense combination is still kicking. I mean, they are very fun to watch, and that's coming from someone who has despised the Steelers for many years. Even though that ending was a little anticlimactic with that encroachment call, still a great win nonetheless. We all know the history between the Steelers and the Ravens. It's not going to be an easy game for either one. It's going to be physical, it's going to be rough, and you know there's going to be plenty of flags. But I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to pick the Ravens on this one. But this can go either way. But for me, I'm going to go with the Ravens to win this one, 24-22. Minnesota Vikings and Tennessee Titans. The Vikings are set to go up against the Nashville Nasties, the Tennessee Titans right now, and what is sure to be a one-sided affair. I'm just going to predict that easily. The Vikings, you had some trouble against the Jaguars for some reason. Sam Darnold threw 3 interceptions, and you guys only had 12 points. I personally didn't watch the game, but I know for sure that you guys could have scored more. Jags are not really that good. And for the Titans, you got Mayo Boy back, but that's not saying much. You guys only scored 10 points and you allowed 27. That's not going to be good, especially to the Chargers, which is a team that still really doesn't know what their identity fully is, even with Jim Harbaugh. Your defense is still pretty strong, but your offense needs to really get together. As I said before, there's not much to this one. I think it's going to be a one-sided affair. I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to win this one. Regardless of the strong defense by the Titans, it's just not going to be enough for them to kind of catch up. Minnesota wins this 28-10. Cleveland Browns and New Orleans Saints. If there was any team in the NFL that needed a bye week, it was the Cleveland Browns. After putting Jameis Winston in as damage control for the injured Deshaun Watson, they managed to win against the Ravens that week, but then they fell to the Chargers 27-10. As you can see, nothing's going right with them. They're tethered to a very expensive quarterback that's hurt for the season, but they do have Nick Chubb, but the rest of the offense is bad, but they have Myles Garrett, but their defense has not performed at all this season. It's really hard to judge this team. And for the Saints, kind of like what I said last week, that the interim head coach often gets their win from the first try. It happened. It happened. Didn't think it was going to happen, but you proved me wrong, so congratulations, New Orleans. Also great to see the return of MVS Marquez Valdez-Scantling, where he had 2 touchdowns. It was a close-fought battle, but you guys held on, especially against a star-studded offense and defense that is the Atlanta Falcons. I don't have the slightest clue who I'm going to pick for this one. Both teams are not good at all. But I will give the advantage to the Saints because they did beat Atlanta and they're seeking another win. Regardless of the bye week, I don't think Cleveland has enough firepower. So give me the Saints to win this 21-13. Jacksonville Jaguars and Detroit Lions. Jacksonville is heading up north to Ford Field to take on the Detroit Lions. Let the Mac Jones era begin. Not yet. When I heard the news that Trevor Lawrence was not going to play that week, I automatically knew it was going to be a loss. I have nothing against Mac Jones. I think he is a decent quarterback. I think he was just put in the wrong system when he was with New England, but it was almost rinse and repeat when facing the Vikings. Only 1 touchdown by Mac himself and nothing else. The Jags were held to only 143 yards on offense. Total offense. Just like your fancy white helmets from last week, you might want to raise the white flag because you guys are not going anywhere. And for Detroit, you make games interesting, I'll tell you that. And like revenge, it's best served cold. And there was a cold kick right there against the Texans by the former Texan himself, Jake Bates. That was incredible. Great kick. Both of his kicks were from 50 plus. You guys started off slow in the first half, allowing 23 points. And only scoring 7, but you guys fought and not allow a single point in the second half. Impressive work. Dan Campbell must be proud. With all due respect, I don't see the Jacksonville Jaguars being a threat at all in this game. Regardless of who the quarterback is, the real factor will be if the Lions could stay hungry in the first quarter and score points. That's all that's going to really matter. And I'm still taking Detroit to win this one. Detroit takes this at home 38-6. Indianapolis Colts and New York Jets. To say that Colts fans are very disappointed with the season would be an understatement. As a matter of fact, I think Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec says it best.
Oh, I'm fine. It's just that life is pointless and nothing matters, and I'm always tired. Also, I can't sleep. I'm overeating. None of my old hobbies interest me.
When many fans thought that Anthony Richardson was going to get the nod to start against the Bills, it was still given to Joe Flacco per Shane Steichen. And our first offensive play started off with a pick 6. And then our next drive had an interception. The Colts had 4 turnovers that whole game. 3 of them were interceptions. Joe Flacco did have some flashes of his old self, but most of the game were blunders and miscommunication with his receivers. Although Jonathan Taylor ran for 117 yards, it was not enough, and the Bills secured a decisive 30-20 win. For the Jets, they can also say the same as Colts fans. We're very disappointed with this season. With Aaron Rodgers being healthy again, everybody thought it was going to be a decent season. Turns out it wasn't. Then they acquired Devontae Adams, his best friend. Maybe things are going to look good. Arizona Cardinals had something else to say. The defense allowed 31 points. Arizona surprised me as well as the Jets with a good combination of ground to air attack. If you are subscribed to me, you should know who I'm going to be picking, and you know how I'm going to justify it. The only reason why I'm going to pick the Colts, besides just it's going with my heart, is also that AR will dominate. Somehow, some way. I don't know how it's going to be a domination, but he will. The Jets are looking rough, but this can go either way. Indy takes the win on the road, 27-20. Green Bay Packers and Chicago Bears. The Cheeseheads are making their yearly trip to Chicago to take on their divisional rival, the Bears. They didn't play last week, so they had the bye week and they slept in for a few hours, which was definitely needed. Their previous game was against another divisional rival, being the Detroit Lions, where they lost at home 24-14. It was a wet game nonetheless. Fun on TV, but probably not fun in person. They need to collect their bearings and get ready for what is potentially a really rough second half of the season. For the Bears, what happened? You guys played like Tom Brady was still on the Patriots. There was just no offensive rhythm whatsoever, no defensive pressure. You guys had literally nothing going on. I worry for the Bears because I know for sure they have a lot of players on there that are good, high-skilled players, but they're just not being utilized the right way. And I think that the excuse of a rookie quarterback is kind of out the window, considering how many other quarterbacks that are rookies that are doing much better than the Bears right now. Matt Eberflus, your seat is hot. Let's put it this way. Who's more desperate for a win? A team that's on the brink of making the playoffs? Or a young team that has many highs and many lows right now? I'm going to go with the Packers to win this one. And not only do I think they're going to win, I think they are going to dominate by at least 3 scores. Green Bay wins this 28-10. Las Vegas Raiders and Miami Dolphins. No telling what the Raiders are going to be like at all. They are on the same quarterback carousel like many other teams in the NFL right now. And now coming off of a bye week, we'll have to see how they react. Expectations are low, but I sure hope head coach Antonio Pierce has something up his sleeve so he can make this team look almost presentable. With Minshew being a former Colt, it's really hard to see him suffer. Poor Uncle Rico. For the Dolphins, wonderful job on Monday Night Football against the Rams. You definitely proved many critics and haters wrong. Tua looked sharp, and with him being sharp, so did the rest of the offense. What surprised me the most was the defense. They did not allow a single touchdown in that whole game. Yes, many field goals, but that was it. It ain't easy to defend all those weapons such as Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, DeMarcus Robinson.
I get it!
With that being said, my decision is pretty clear. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins to win this one. So far, so good for Tua right now. And since he has all of his weapons still, that offense is going to be electric. So give me the Dolphins winning here in a high-scoring affair, 31-13. Los Angeles Rams and New England Patriots. To say that I was very disappointed with the Rams' performance would be an understatement. That team alone has many weapons that were not utilized whatsoever. The offensive line collapsed, Matt Stafford didn't have enough time in the pocket to throw. He did get a hold of Cooper Kupp many times, as well as Puka Nacua, none of which resulted in a touchdown. I think personally everyone was surprised how good the Dolphins were on Monday night, myself included. But it was just so surprising to see how this team, which I thought was actually on a good run, just collapsed instantly before our very eyes. For the Patriots, most boring win of the week goes to you. Seriously. Nothing at all happened in that game except for 1 touchdown and 4 field goals. And they weren't even long field goals. The longest field goal was 37 yards. That's a chip shot in the NFL. But on the bright side, I did think that Drake May did a really good job kind of controlling that game. Clock management as well as a solid defense is what really stopped the Bears. If I had to pick between these two teams, I am going to go with the Rams on this one. I think they're just a better offense as well as defense. I'm still going to say Matt Stafford is the key factor throughout all this though. But don't be surprised if the Patriots put up a good fight. But LA is going to take this one 23-20. Atlanta Falcons and Denver Broncos. The last thing I would expect from the Atlanta Falcons is to lose to a poorly managed New Orleans Saints team. But sure enough, here we are. Despite the 300-plus yard passing game for Kirk Cousins and the 2 touchdowns by Bijan Robinson, it still wasn't enough. There was 1 crucial interception to Kirk Cousins, but it just seems that New Orleans had more spirit in that fight, especially now that you have the new interim head coach. They almost have the mentality of, what do we have to lose? So I'll credit them that. And for the Broncos. Guys, I am so sorry.
To win it. Oh! Blocked! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won!
Yeah, that pretty much summed it up. The Dark Magic saved the Chiefs again. Coming into this game, you have 2 teams that are very bitter after 2 crushing losses. But this is going to be my upset of the week. Give me the Broncos to win this one. You can make fun of me later, but I'm going to go with Denver to win this one. Score 24-17. Seattle Seahawks and San Francisco 49ers. Seattle, you are coming off of a bye week that was much needed, considering that last week you guys lost in overtime to the LA Rams. And a very, very sad finish too, with a floating touchdown pass by Matt Stafford to DeMarcus Robinson. I'm just going to keep this short for you guys. I really don't know what you guys want. Your main stars are young, but mostly hurt, and you also have older stars that just can't perform as well. But for some reason against your divisional rivals, you always play tough. You're a confusing team nonetheless. And for the 49ers, you got your boy back, Christian McCaffrey. The whole NFL world was waiting for this moment. Many eyes were set for this game, and he did not score a single touchdown. He did collectively get about 100 yards in total receiving and rushing, but no touchdown. An odd stat for him, but he is going to get better as he progresses more and more through the rest of the season. This divisional matchup is going to be fun to watch, but I'm going to side with the 49ers on this one, with McCaffrey coming back, and it looks like their defense is doing a pretty good job too. I really can't say no to them. Give me the Niners to win this one, 27-14. Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills. What type of dark magic T-Swizzle juju stuff is going on with the Chiefs? How are they still undefeated? 9-0. 9-0. I don't get it. I reiterate, this team is one of the worst undefeated teams of all time. Lucky as can be, for no good reason, and only proved my point last week against the Broncos where they had that blocked field goal. The Broncos were the better team overall. Bo Nix showed off great skills and somehow lost. Broncos should have won, changed my mind. And let us not forget about this game last week where the Bills beat the Colts on the road 30-20. What started off as a slow game for Josh Allen then erupted into an offensive frenzy for them. The real winner was the Bills defense, where they had a pick 6 on their first defensive play and 3 more turnovers, a grand total of 3 interceptions for Joe Flacco for the Bills defense. The team is scary. Even with Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper out for that game, they were still dominant. They find ways to win, regardless of the obstacle, and look like a front runner for the playoffs. So between these two, who do I pick? I am going to go with the Buffalo Bills to win this one at home. I can see this as being a blockbuster game yet again. Whenever these two play, it always seems to be a crazy ending. Will we see an overtime? Maybe. Will we see a controversial ending? Maybe. That's just how it is going to be with these games for the next 5 to 10 more years. But my gut's going with the Bills, so give me Buffalo to win this one, 31-27. Cincinnati Bengals and Los Angeles Chargers. The Bengals are the best team with a terrible record. Offensively, Joe Burrow has had a great season so far. Same thing with Jamar Chase and Chase Brown and the rest of the whole offensive squad. The problem is that luck has never been on their side. If they scored 30 points, the other team scores 31. If they score 50 points, the other team scores 51. And also, a lot of no calls. They are the least penalized team, but they seem to always get the short stick every time when there's a call, especially at the end of the game. My opinion about the Ravens game from last week still stands. They should have won it. As for the Chargers, what a game for them. It was a great game. Total domination by Justin Herbert and the rest of that offense. It was Will Levis's first game back, and it was a rude awakening to come back to. Being sacked multiple times, defense looking strong, and looking back at the season stats for the Chargers, I see that Justin Herbert has only thrown one interception. Although his touchdowns are 11 compared to Joe Burrow's 24, that's another story altogether. The last time Cincinnati played on primetime, they lost to Baltimore. But the last time they played Sunday Night Football, they beat the Giants. I know that's not saying much, but that is a factor. This would be Cincinnati's game to win, but they have to control that defensive line, those first 4 on the Chargers, especially Joey Bosa. But I am going to pick Cincy to win this one in a tight race, 28-24. Kitty goes meow. Houston Texans and Dallas Cowboys. 2 primetime games in a row for the Houston Texans. Last week they took on the Detroit Lions in their new red alternate uniforms. And I gotta say, these are pretty fresh looking. They're not my favorite, but they're still kind of cool. Anyway, the uniforms didn't make a difference on their performance. They scored 23 points in the first half against the Lions, and Dan Campbell wanted to turn the Jets on, and they scored zilch in the second half. Zilch. Leaving their defense to attempt to block a field goal game winner, which eventually went through, sealing the deal at 6-4 for the record. And for the Cowboys, what's good to say with this team right now? Yeah, not much, except that your stadium has natural light. Seriously though, this is one of the craziest things to see. All that light going right into the end zone, especially when you're trying to score a touchdown. I mean, it's a flashbang grenade on steroids. But that didn't matter much, considering that they only scored 6 points throughout the whole game. It was a boring game nonetheless, unless you're a Philly fan. And I know this isn't going to happen, but just be hypothetical here. If the Cowboys and the Texans got to the Super Bowl together, it would make Hank Hill so happy.
An all-Texas Super Bowl. His will be done.
With that being said, I am going to pick the Texans to win this one on Monday night. I don't see anything competitive with Cowboys at this point, except for CeeDee Lamb, Rico Dowdle, and a few others. But until they establish what's going to go on with the quarterback situation, are you going to keep Cooper Rush? Or are you going to put Trey Lance in? It really does depend. I think that the Texans are kind of set for what they are wanting to do with Joe Mixon, Tank Dell, and CJ Stroud. So give me Houston to win this one, 28-13. And with that, Week 11 predictions are in the books. Thank you so much for watching. If you stayed this long, please like and subscribe for more videos, and we will get back with this in Week 12. Thanks again. Peace.